The first sign I was in trouble was not when my neighbor texted me about the spare key. It was when she opened the door wearing my hoodie and froze like I had caught her committing a crime. My name is Leo Mercer. I'm 34, an automobile mechanic, and the kind of man who had gotten very good at fixing other people's problems while letting my own life idle in neutral. I owned a small repair shop on the east side of Asheville, a place called Mercer Auto that smelled like oil, brake dust, and the faint sweetness of coolant. I had 2 bays, one lift that groaned when the temperature dropped below 40, and a reputation for honest work at fair prices. People trusted me with their cars. Their daughters, less so. Not because I was dangerous, because I was quiet. After my divorce, quiet had become my primary personality trait. My ex-wife, Vanessa, had left me 3 years earlier for a man who sold luxury real estate and described himself as a disruptor. She told me I was reliable in the same tone people used for minivans and sensible shoes. "You're steady, Leo, but I need someone who makes me feel like the engine is still running." I had spent the last 3 years proving her right. Work, home, repeat. Oil changes, brake jobs, timing belts. I could diagnose a misfire by sound alone, but I could not seem to figure out why my own life had stalled. Then Maya Calloway moved into the blue bungalow next door. She was 31, a landscape architect who worked from home and apparently believed that plants were the solution to every architectural sin. Within 3 months, her yard had transformed from a patchy lawn into something that belonged on a magazine cover. Wildflowers along the fence. A stone path leading to a small greenhouse she built herself. Her front porch held pots of rosemary, lavender, and something she called lemon balm that she claimed cured anxiety. I told her my anxiety was cured by a properly torqued cylinder head. She told me that was the saddest sentence she had ever heard. That was Maya. Direct, warm, and completely incapable of pretending she didn't notice things. She noticed when I worked late. She noticed when I skipped dinner. She noticed that I talked to stubborn engine parts like they were misbehaving pets, and she never made me feel boring for it. She made me feel seen, which was much worse. We became friendly in the way neighbors do. I fixed her car when the alternator died. She brought me a plate of lemon bars and told me not to read into it because she had made too many. I helped her haul bags of soil from her truck. She left a small potted plant on my porch with a note. "This is called a friendship plant. Don't kill it. It's a test." I named it Gregory. It was still alive, barely. The Hoodie situation happened 2 weeks earlier. Maya had been locked out of her house during a sudden rainstorm. I came home from the shop to find her huddled under her porch awning, soaked through, laughing at her own misfortune. I loaned her my favorite gray hoodie, the one with the faded logo from a parts supplier and a grease stain on the left cuff that had never washed out. It was worn soft, the kind of hoodie that had survived years of late nights in cold garages. She pulled it on, the sleeves swallowing her hands, and gave me a smile that did something inconvenient to my chest. "Don't get attached," she said. "I'm returning it." She didn't. 2 weeks passed. I didn't ask for it back. I told myself it was because I was a decent neighbor. The truth was less flattering. I liked knowing she had it. That Thursday evening, the text came. "Maya, I have your key and your hoodie. Come get them before I lose both and have to live in shame." I had given her my spare key months ago after she locked herself out the second time. She had never used it except to feed Gregory when I was out of town for a parts run. The text was casual and ordinary, the kind of message neighbors exchange without a second thought. I should have walked over, grabbed the key, made a joke about the hoodie, and gone home. Instead, I changed my shirt twice and told myself it was because the first one had grease on it, which was technically true, which was also a lie I was not ready to examine. At 7:15, I walked across the narrow strip of grass between our houses. The evening was warm, fireflies starting to blink in her wildflower patch. Her porch light was on. Through the front window, I could see the soft glow of lamps and the silhouette of too many houseplants pressed against the glass. I knocked. The door opened, and Maya froze. She was wearing my hoodie, the gray one with the faded logo and the grease stain. Her hair was loose around her shoulders, slightly damp like she had just showered. She was barefoot, Her face went through 3 emotions in the span of 1 second. Surprise, embarrassment, and then something else entirely. Something that looked almost like fear. "Leo," she said, "you're early." I glanced at my phone. "It's 7:15. "I know. She pulled the hoodie sleeves over her hands, a nervous gesture. "I thought I had more time." The pause that followed was not the comfortable silence of two neighbors who had shared lemon bars and alternator repairs. It was loaded. It was waiting. It was the kind of quiet where something important was trying to find the courage to speak. "Are you okay?" I asked. She laughed once, but it came out shaky. "That depends." "On what?" "On whether you're here for the key or the hoodie." I studied her face. She was standing in the doorway like she was blocking something. Her eyes kept flicking past me toward the street, then back. Her knuckles were white where she gripped the doorframe. "Why don't you tell me what's actually going on?" I said. She closed her eyes for 1 second, then she stepped aside. "You should probably come in." Her house smelled like lavender, fresh soil, and something baking. A batch of cookies sat cooling on the kitchen counter, untouched. The living room was neat but lived in, with sketchbooks stacked on the coffee table and a half-finished landscape design pinned to the wall. And there, on the couch, was a cardboard box. And inside it were folded clothes, a framed photo, and a small velvet box that looked suspiciously like jewelry. I stopped. "Maya." She wrapped her arms around herself, still wearing my hoodie. "His name is Kyle. He was supposed to pick up the last of his things tonight." "Your ex?" "Almost ex-fiancé." She gave a thin, humorless smile. "We called off the engagement 6 months ago. He took it well at first, then he didn't." The word "didn't" landed with the weight of a lug nut dropped on concrete. "He's been texting," she said. "A lot. At first it was just sad. Then it got angry. Then he started showing up places. My office, my gym, the greenhouse supplier I use." She pulled out her phone and showed me a string of messages. The last one was from an hour ago. "I'm coming by tonight. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I felt my jaw tighten. "Have you called the police?" "He hasn't done anything. That's the problem. He just hovers. He's very good at being reasonable in public and completely different when no one's watching." She looked down at my hoodie. "I should give this back." "It's stupid. She trailed off. I waited. One thing I had learned from years of diagnosing engine problems was that people, like cars, would tell you what was wrong if you stopped talking long enough to listen. "I put it on after he texted," she said quietly, "because it smells like oil and coffee and whatever soap you use. And I know that sounds insane, but it made me feel less alone." Her voice cracked slightly. "I'm sorry. You came for a key, and now you're in the middle of my disaster. I should have said something practical. That was my role. The reliable neighbor. The steady mechanic. The man who fixed things without making them emotional." But Maya was standing in her living room wearing my hoodie, scared of a man who had been slowly tightening his grip on her life. And I realized with sudden clarity that I did not want to be practical. I wanted to be useful in a way that mattered. "You don't have to apologize," I said, "and you don't have to see him alone." Her eyes lifted to mine. "Leo, you don't have to." "I know I don't have to." The sentence hung between us. Simple, undeniable. Then headlights swept across the front window. A car pulled into her driveway. Maya went pale. "That's him." I moved before I thought about it. Not in front of her, not blocking her, just beside her. Close enough that my shoulder was even with hers. Close enough that when the knock came, she was not facing it alone. I opened the door. Kyle was tall, polished, and dressed like he had just come from a business meeting where he had done all the talking. Navy polo, expensive watch, and a smile that was designed to disarm. The smile flickered when he saw me. "Maya," he said, looking past me. "Who's this?" "Leo," I said. Not the neighbor, not a friend, just my name. Kyle's eyes moved over me, assessing. Mechanic's hands, work boots, a shirt that had seen better days. Whatever calculation he ran, the result was dismissal. "This is a private conversation," he said. No, Maya said, stepping forward. It isn't. You don't get to decide what's private anymore. His expression shifted. Not anger, not yet. Something more controlled. I just want to talk. You owe me that much. I don't owe you anything. Her voice was steadier now. You need to leave. Or what? He laughed softly, shaking his head. You'll have your neighbor glare at me? Come on, Maya. Don't be dramatic. There it was. The word. Dramatic. The universal solvent for women's valid emotions. I had heard men use it before. I had never wanted to punch drywall more than I did in that moment. But Maya didn't flinch. I asked you to stop texting. I asked you to stop showing up. You did neither. If you come here again, I'm filing a report. Kyle's calm cracked. Just a fraction. You're really going to do this? Throw away 2 years because you got cold feet? I didn't get cold feet. I got clarity. There's a difference. She held up her phone. Now leave. Or I call the police right now, with a witness, and we can see how that looks for you. For a long, tense moment, no one moved. Kyle looked at Maya, then at me, then back at Maya. He was recalculating. I could see it in his eyes. The realization that he was no longer dealing with a woman alone. He stepped back. This isn't over. Yes, Maya said. It is. He walked to his car, got in, and drove away with the controlled aggression of a man who had lost an argument and was already rewriting it in his head. The silence after was thick. Maya stood perfectly still, one hand gripping the doorframe. Then she exhaled like she had been holding her breath for 6 months. I can't believe I did that, she whispered. I looked at her. You did. You stood your ground. I was terrified. I know. You did it anyway. I paused. That's not dramatic. That's brave. Her eyes filled. Not with tears. Not quite. With something closer to relief. She looked down at the hoodie, then back at me. You should probably take this back, she said. Do you want to give it back? She was quiet for a moment. No. Then keep it. The corner of her mouth lifted, small and fragile. That's a very dangerous offer. I'm full of those tonight. She laughed. It was shaky, but it was real. Then she stepped back and held the door open. Come in. I made cookies, and I apparently need to explain why I was wearing your hoodie before my ex-fiancé tried to intimidate me on my own porch. We sat on her couch with cookies neither of us ate and coffee that went cold before we remembered to drink it. She told me about Kyle, the slow erosion of her confidence, the way he had made every decision feel like a negotiation she was losing, the moment she had realized she was shrinking herself to fit a life she didn't want. I gave him back the ring, she said. He kept it, said he'd hold on to it until I came to my senses. That's not romantic. That's a threat. I know. I knew then. But I didn't want to believe it. She looked at the velvet box still sitting in the cardboard box. He brought it tonight, left it with the rest of his things like a promise I never asked for. I looked at the box. Do you want to keep it? No. The word was immediate and certain. I want it gone. I can take it, sell it, donate it, whatever you want. She studied me. You do that? I'm a mechanic. I fix things. Sometimes that means removing a broken part so the rest of the system can function. That's a very mechanical metaphor for emotional support. I work with what I have. She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. Thank you, Leo. For what? For not making me feel ridiculous. For not making me feel fragile. She looked down at the hoodie. For letting me borrow this and not asking for it back, even though I know it's your favorite. How do you know it's my favorite? Because you wore it every Saturday for the last 2 years. I noticed. The words landed between us, quiet and irreversible. She noticed. For 2 years, she had been noticing. My Saturday hoodie. My stubborn engine conversations. My overwatered friendship plant. The way I talked to Gregory like he might answer. I noticed some things too, I said. Her eyes met mine. Like what? Like the way you talk to your plants like they're students. The way you hum when you're concentrating on a design. The way you leave your porch light on when you know I'm working late at the shop. Her lips parted slightly. Why did you never say anything? Because you were engaged, and then you weren't, and you were hurting. And I didn't want to be one more person asking something from you. I paused, choosing words carefully, like torquing a bolt to exact specification. I'm not good at wanting things halfway, and I didn't trust myself to want you the right amount. What's the right amount? She whispered. I don't know yet, but I know it's not small. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she reached over and placed her hand on mine. Not grabbing, just resting there. A question asked in contact. I'm not made of glass, she said. Kyle thought I was. He treated me like something that would break if he pressed too hard. But I broke things off. I stood up to him tonight. I'm still standing. I know. Then what are you afraid of? I turned my hand over beneath hers. Our fingers laced together. It was such a small thing. It felt enormous. That you'll give the hoodie back, I said. She laughed. The sound broke through the last of the tension in the room. I'm never giving the hoodie back. I've claimed it. It's legally mine now. I think there's a process for that. I'll file the paperwork. We sat there, hand in hand, surrounded by half-packed boxes, cold coffee, and the lingering scent of lavender. Kyle's velvet ring box sat on the table, waiting to be removed. Outside, the fireflies were still blinking in her wildflower patch. Inside, something that had been idling in neutral for years was finally, quietly, shifting into gear. Later, as I walked back across the strip of grass between our houses, I turned to see her standing in the doorway. She was still wearing my hoodie. The porch light made a halo around her hair. Leo, she called. Yeah? Thank you for not being practical tonight. I smiled. That's the first time anyone's ever thanked me for that. Get used to it. I went home. Gregory the friendship plant looked slightly less wilted than usual. I watered him. I thought about the velvet box I would take to the donation center tomorrow. I thought about Maya's hand in mine. I thought about the engine of my own life, which had been knocking for years, and how maybe it was finally time to stop ignoring the sound. The next morning, I found a small potted plant on my porch with a note tucked into the soil. The handwriting was neat, deliberate, not rushed. This is a lemon balm. It's for anxiety. I'm told you have some. M. I brought it inside and set it next to Gregory. 2 plants now, a matched set. I texted her a picture. Gregory approves. She replied immediately. Gregory has no choice. He's a plant. He has opinions. I'm sure he does. That evening, I walked over with a proper dinner invitation. No emergencies. No ex-fiancés. No cardboard boxes of past lives. Just dinner at a small Italian place I knew that had terrible parking but excellent tiramisu. She opened the door in a green sundress. No hoodie this time, but she looked at me the same way she had the night before, like I was someone worth noticing. You're asking me on a date, she said. I'm trying. Trying implies uncertainty. I'm not uncertain. I'm just new at this. Her smile softened. Good, so am I. The date went well. Then another. Then Sunday coffee on her porch while she sketched landscape designs and I pretended to read a manual on transmission diagnostics, but mostly just watched the way the morning light caught in her hair. We went slow. Not because we were afraid, because we both understood that the best repairs take time. You don't rush a rebuild. You torque each bolt to spec. You let the gasket seal. You test the system before you take it on the highway. 3 months later, I found my hoodie folded on my porch with a note attached. I'm returning this, not because I don't want it, because I want something else. M. I stared at the note, then I walked across the grass between our houses. She was waiting on her porch, wearing one of my flannel shirts now, barefoot, fireflies blinking in the yard behind her. You said you wanted something else, I said. I did. What? She stepped closer. Close enough that I could smell lavender and fresh soil. Close enough that her hand found mine. Something that doesn't need to be borrowed, she said. Something that stays. I kissed her on her porch with the lemon balm and the wildflowers and the too many houseplants as witnesses. It was not a careful kiss. It was not a practical kiss. It was the kind of kiss that made you forget your own name and remember why you had been so afraid of wanting things in the first place. When we separated, she was smiling. Well, that answers that. I have more answers if you need them. Hold that thought. She pulled back just enough to look at me. I need to ask you something. Anything. Will you keep the spare key? Not for emergencies, for always. I looked at her, at the woman who had turned a patchy lawn into a garden, who had worn my hoodie like armor against a man who tried to make her small, who had seen me, steady and quiet and covered in grease, and decided I was worth noticing. Yes, I said. I'll keep it. She kissed me again, and this time, the engine of my life didn't knock. It hummed. A year later, the hoodie was officially hers. She wore it on Sunday mornings while she watered her plants and I made coffee. Gregory and the lemon balm had multiplied. The spare key lived on her key ring, not in a drawer for emergencies. Kyle's ring had been sold, the money donated to a women's shelter, the receipt framed in Maya's greenhouse as a quiet reminder of what she had walked away from. Some evenings, we sat on her porch and watched the fireflies. She leaned against my shoulder, and I thought about how easy it would have been to stay in my garage, to keep my life in neutral, to never knock on her door. But I had knocked, and she had opened it wearing my hoodie, scared and brave and completely herself. "The hoodie," I said one night. "Did you really wear it because it smelled like me?" She looked up at me, eyes bright in the porch light. "Yes. And? And what? And was that the only reason?" She smiled. The kind of smile that started slow and then took over her whole face. "No, I also wanted you to notice." I noticed. "I know, you just took your time about it. I was being careful. You were being scared." She kissed my cheek. "There's a difference." I pulled her closer. "Not anymore." "No," she said, "not anymore." What would you have done if you went to return your neighbor's spare key and found her wearing your hoodie, frozen in the doorway, terrified of the man who was about to knock on her door? And have you ever realized that the person you were being careful with was the one who was waiting for you to stop being scared? Tell me your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.